Welcome to the Average Movie Review Podcast, where I, your local or international movie/TV show enthusiast, will be reviewing everything that's recent in video games, television, movies, whatever you can think of. We will talk about it in this podcast. The reason why I started this podcast, just to give you a little bit of background, if you care, that is because I personally feel that reviews nowadays are very specific in the sense that they feel like they're being paid to be told in a certain way where it kind of entraps us or tells us that we should go see this film, but really maybe, or this TV show, whatever it is, but in reality, their review doesn't really match up with what's happening on screen. Or reviews now are just too critical and they're trying to make stuff up about films or TV shows that don't really add up. Like, for example, if you're going to go watch a Fast and Furious movie, but you're looking for a story that has to do with like Inception or a Christopher Nolan movie, then maybe you're in the wrong film or in the wrong business, because if you're going for a Fast and Furious movie, the only thing you should be expecting is family and Vin Diesel and cars and vehicular warfare and just nonstop entertainment for an hour and a half or 2 hours, however long the film is. So I just feel like some people need to take a little bit of a chill pill or take a step back and really analyze the film or TV show, whatever they're watching, for what it is, than making it more than what it should be. And I feel like we don't have enough of that. And because of it, films and TV shows are struggling to actually make the money that they deserve or get the recognition that they deserve. Because there are great films out there that should be awarded prestigious awards or should be recognized in the film community, but unfortunately are not. And another great example of that would be like the Mad Max series, right? Fury Road did so well, in my opinion, and I went in watching that movie completely blinded. And then you see Furiosa came out and it didn't do as well, and it should have. And also, there's other factors to that where companies are now switching to streaming and like taking movies out of theaters before they even get a chance to actually grow. And that's a whole nother thing that we'll get into. But yeah, that's why I'm starting this podcast, is just because I feel like you should get an honest review of films and TV shows, and we as the audience deserve that. We shouldn't be bamboozled into watching something that isn't good, or we shouldn't be bamboozled out of something that is actually good and people think it's bad. Cough, cough, Penguin, IGN, 5. What? That doesn't make any sense. But yeah, so that's what I'm going to do here. And to start off this first episode, I thought, what movie could I do that would really set the tone of what I'm trying to accomplish here? And maybe I picked the wrong film. I don't know. If you feel like I did, of course, let me know. But I feel like because it's such a close film to me, and truly, to me, what started off my movie journey in general, or like what started off as a cinematic masterpiece that led into decades of feeling the hype and hope that we are finally going to get a comic book universe that could be put into live action after so many failures, would be Iron Man 1. I personally feel that this film has changed, or has had such an impact in our in the or sorry in the cinematic sphere, where it's completely pretty much destroyed your thinking of what a cinematic universe could be, and also it set a bar in which I don't think any company or comic book movie or even series has lived up to so far. and it started the universe, this MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the universe that we've come to know, that we love and hate. There's so much hate for it right now, especially, but I thought maybe that would be the best film to start off with, and so let's get into it. I'll just give you a little bit of a recap of the story itself. It's basically the origin story of Iron Man. Tony Stark, played by Robert Downey Jr. I'm sure you all know who Robert Downey Jr. is by now. I'll be referring him to as RDJ. His humble beginnings, I guess, to how he became Iron Man, and what started off, in my personal opinion, as probably just another superhero movie for Paramount turned out to be the beginning, or the seed that grew into this massive tree that we know that is called the MCU. So, basic recap of the story. Basically, you see Tony being the arrogant and, I guess, super confident, overconfident playboy philanthropist that he is. He gets automatically humbled after a trip to Afghanistan, showing off his new weapons, gets kidnapped, um, meets the scientists there, and then, creates the first Iron Man suit, gets out, comes back, realizes that his whole life has been kind of not really a lie, but really meaningless, in the sense that he always thought that weapons were the greatest thing, and he always thought he was doing good for his country, but realizing that what he's doing for his country is also affecting other countries in a negative way, and he wants to change that. He wants to bring about peace, because he realized that he's causing more destruction than peace, than what he thought before, because for him everything before that was just make money, sell weapons, make money, sell weapons. But now it's more like he's realizing that his decisions have a negative consequence for other people. And you get to meet Jebediah, you see Pepper Potts, Clark Gregg shows up as Agent Coulson from S.H.I.E.L.D., and it all around the film itself it's a great origin story. I think it works. There's great character development. It's not just out of the blue he just changes his mind. No, he changes his mind because he goes through something traumatic that makes him go, wow, I really need to change my perspective on what I'm doing right now in my life. And he's gotten a new view, a second chance, basically. And that's what makes him into a hero, right? Every hero needs a tragedy, sorry. And this was his moment. This was his tragedy, basically, that he almost died, and his eyes are now open. The good about this film, or the great about this film: CGI, impeccable, amazing for the time that it came out, amazing, absolutely phenomenal CGI. I, growing up or watching that film, I was like, oh wow, they really made that suit. Holy crap! Like, this is as real as it gets. Um, yes, of course, there are some moments where you can tell that this was computer generated, as any other film, but for its time, compared to what we're getting now, the sloppy CGI, amazing, amazing. You can't deny that, even if you wanted to. Continuing on, I guess picking someone like RDJ to play this character was truly kismet, I guess you could say. I'm sure you've already heard of all the interviews and everything where the director, whose name escapes me right now, I can't believe I'm totally forgetting who he is. He plays Happy Hogan. Mentioned that given RDJ's past, it just felt right that he would be Iron Man, given everything that he's been through at the time. And if you don't know what I'm referring to, I don't know if you're living under a rock, but you could go Google it. I'm sure you can see it. And it really is, I guess, art imitates life. I think that's the saying, or something similar to that, where, you know, his life is very similar, and he had a moment of realization, and he made a change. And the same thing goes for Tony Stark, right? Where everything was just kind of spoon fed to him, and he lived the best life. He had the money, he had the girls, he had everything. And then he comes to this conclusion to realize that he could be doing so much more as a person than what he's doing right now. And he makes that change. Yes, one thing I do appreciate, that despite making that change, he's still him. Still a little arrogant, still a little playboyish, still, knows that he has power and he has everything he wants, and he doesn't change his personality too much, but he makes good or better decisions, right? And that's what I like about it. It's just like he's not losing himself, but he's gaining a little bit more of himself. Like he's gaining another trait, or like another, a, in no sense, like a special move or something. Like, he's gaining something instead of giving up his past. And he accepts that, and he tries to move on from that, which is what I appreciate, the accountability. And I think that's what makes this film so good, is just that, you know, we don't get to lose Tony's character that we see in the beginning of the film, but we get to see it grow into something a little bit better. Yes, of course, there could be some changes here and there, but he's getting there, and we see it throughout the entire universe and the cinematic universe, that he gets to that point where he learns from this. And that's what I love about it. Um, you know, how did it make me feel when I was watching this film growing up as a kid? Did I ever think that it would amount to anything? Of course not. No, I didn't. But it did make me feel like we were getting something different. Growing up, I saw Spider Man, I saw X Men, and you know, you watch those films and you just wish, oh man, it wouldn't it be so cool if Spider Man could interact with this character, or if the X Men could meet with this character, or if this could ever happen, right? Or even if the X Men and Spider Man could meet up together. There were plans for that in Spider Man 2, however, it didn't amount to anything, which kind of sucks, but it wasn't, it was just hope, right? And when you're watching Iron Man 1 growing at that age, or at that time specifically, you don't think that far ahead, because you're just like, oh, this is just another superhero film. It's cool, whatever. Like, yeah, they always say these type of things, but it never really amounts to anything. But watching it at that time made me feel like, wow, this is a really good superhero film. It's a nice way to introduce a new character. Let's see how far it goes. However, when you get to that first post-credit scene, something that, you know, you haven't seen at all in other movies, where people don't really do post-credit scenes, right? And post-credit scenes were just like this thing that kind of started, with Iron Man, and it was just like, whoa, like, I'm sure it started with other films as well, but um, this scene itself actually led to something, right? You see Nick Fury, and you can't help but get a little tingle in your, in your boots, I guess, a little tingle in your feet, that you're like, oh, what does this mean? How does this work? Like, what are they trying to do here? And you're sitting there in the theater or at home, wherever you watched it, and you're just like, wow, like, that was so cool. Like, like, it was like a 2 minute scene, or like a minute and 30 seconds. You're just like, wow, like, did they really just do that? Did they just introduce Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury? And you're just like, wow, holy crap, that's the coolest thing you've ever seen. And inside you're just like, wait, does that mean like Tobey Maguire's gonna show up? Does that mean like the X-Men are gonna be connected? uh, at that point, I don't think you thought that, or you even if you did, but you didn't think it'd be possible. But now, here in 2024, well, you know they are all connected, and you're just like, wow, holy crap. Like, if you went back in time and you told your 10, 13, whatever, however old you were, self, that, hey, these movies are all gonna connect one day, just wait for it, you look at your future self and be like, you're crazy, and that's not happening. But here you are experiencing something like this, and you cannot believe for a second that something like this would be possible in the future. But that's me going off ahead and droning off, so apologize for that. Um, but yeah, how does it hold up now? I think it still holds up as one of the greatest superhero films. I think it still has a lot of entertainment value. You still watch this movie, even if you're doing like a run through of the MCU, you watch this film and you still get that giddy feeling in that post credit scene. I guarantee it, no matter what. It's just so much more fun to watch it now. And you're also looking for more and more Easter eggs while you're watching. You're like, oh, look at that little scene or that little detail, because you're just like, oh, that could be part of, like, oh, I missed this. Oh, and look, they addressed this in this film and stuff like that. So when you're doing these run throughs, you notice more, and it makes you feel good because the current state of the MCU, which again we will talk about for sure, is not as great as what it was in the past. And it kind of takes you back. Nostalgia is a very strong feeling, I think, and it does make you kind of go back to your happy moments. And I think that's a good thing, because with everything going around in the world and whatnot, it's always nice to feel like some hope, and like, to go back in time and relive those really good moments. And I think Iron Man does that for you. I think it's a really good film. In terms of flaws and whatnot, yeah, there were some story inconsistencies. I would have loved a little bit more action between Iron Man and Ironmonger. I think that was missed out. Jebediah, uh, again, the actor, I cannot remember. I should start writing these things down. Who played Jebediah? Amazing guy, of course. Oh, God, I wish I could remember his name. I did remember the director's name, Jon Favreau, but if I do remember his name, I will definitely just remember saying it. I think he's one of the better villains in the MCU. He's very well established. You get that evil feeling from him, and I think one of the biggest flaws in superhero films is just that the villains are never really precise, or like they're not really, not precise. Sorry, they're not shown properly, or they're not developed properly. And I think they did a really good job with Jebediah, and you really do kind of hate him by the end of the film, but you also appreciate his villainy in that sense. And I think they did a really good job with that. But however, I would have loved more action, a little bit more fighting scenes between them. It would have been so much more fun to watch. But I get it. He's not that big of a villain, and like he's a pretty big villain, but he's not. They only had so much limited time, and they can only do so much. So I completely understand that at that time. So it makes sense to me. So to quickly wrap it up, um, I would give this out of five, probably a 4 out of 5 stars for sure. Entertainment level, super entertaining. You can't go wrong watching this movie on a random Tuesday night, or any night really. It's always fun to watch Iron Man, no matter what. But yeah, that's how I felt about Iron Man 1. Um, and that's pretty much my take on the film. And we will be doing more films from the MCU, of course. I will be talking more about all of the latest films that are coming up. I just finished a review on Venom, Last Dance. I'm gonna do Don't Move from Netflix. Really good film. Definitely, you should definitely go watch that. And the latest Penguin episode that just happened a couple of days ago, yesterday actually, episode 6. So we'll definitely be covering that one as well. Great show, great episode. Please do go watch it and support it. Amazing, amazing TV right now. And yeah, and for this episode, if you do hear random pauses and whatnot, I do apologize. I'm not feeling too well, so I'm trying my best to keep the cough out of the podcast. So there will be some choppy editing, I guess. But we're working on it. It's our first one. We're getting there. We're starting it off, and yeah. And if you'd like to interact with me, please give me a follow on Twitter at AVG Movie Review 2, Average Movie Review 2. Again, AVG Movie Review 2. on Twitter. And if you want me to answer any questions, or if you have anything you want to ask me, you can always email me at avgmoviereview2212@gmail.com. Again, that's avgmoviereview2212@gmail.com. Thank you so much for listening, and there's so much more to come. I hope you'll join me on this journey, and yeah, I hope you had fun. Thank you, and have a wonderful rest of your day, guys.